thing.
Yeah. Hey?
Oh, you're live.
I'm alive. I'm alive. We're here. Thank you very much, Thomas Overend, the Backline Project. Good evening, fuckers around the world. It's Tony Jack, the Bear Man's here, and welcome to Mastering Music, Mastering Life. And today I'm so happy to have as our special guest, Mr. Andrew, or Andy De Silva. He doesn't really mind what you call him, but Andy De Silva. Come on in, mate. So good to
Bring
see
it
you.
in. Good to see you too, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Thank you for coming down.
My pleasure.
It's been a while.
It has been a long time.
I mean, last time I saw you was very briefly, many moons ago. I was probably, I think you were just trouncing around Sing Sing Studios. You were just sort of waltzing through there, and we just met very briefly, and we have lots of mutual acquaintances and whatnot. And doing this podcast, has been about getting on people from the industry to talk about their life, get a backstory on them, their journey. And hopefully help inspire some kids, predominantly kids or even big kids who just want to. The kids who are stuck, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it.
Yeah.
But when they hear from people who have actually done it, and your story is an amazing story, and I thought, wow, you're just a guy in the back of my mind. And then Purple Revolution, you've been doing, and then went and saw you. I said, right, I'm going down to see it. This is one occasion I could actually go. And that's what I said. I'm just gonna hit you up, and it's very grateful you're here, mate.
It's great to see you at the gig, at the show.
It was
really
good.
Cool.
How have those runner shows been going?
Oh man, it's been such a blast for us because we just basically love playing Prince's music, and we actually have always loved his music. Well, I have as well.
Mm-hmm.
People that know me know that I have always sung his songs. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it just happened in such a natural way, and that's what I know. That's when you know something is meant to be, when it's not forced. I just decided, okay, because I did the Marvin Gaye theatre show,
right?
Completely different. That's with narration, and somebody else produced that show. But it got me thinking, okay, what would I do if I made my own show? And I was like, it's got to be Prince.
Yeah, right.
So I put this show together with like-minded musicians, A-grade musos,
Totally.
and we did our first show in Albury. And after the show, man, we just came off stage. Everyone was like, I can't believe it. You should have done this so long ago.
Yeah.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. 3 weeks after that, he passed away. 3 weeks after the first show, 3 or 4 weeks. And then my phone just kept ringing, and I didn't know what to do after then. I was like, my daughter was I was actually driving my 9-year-old to school the day before he passed away. And she, out of the blue, just said, hey, Dad, would you be upset if Prince passed away? And I'm driving, and I said, yeah, Daddy, loved his music. I'm sure a lot of people would be, And then the next day, he passed away. So the show now means a lot to us, and we just want to do the best we can to, give people that experience as best as we can. Yeah. And they know that we love them, and they know that I'm doing it from a place.
Yeah.
I'm not there trying to, imitate Prince. The similarities are there anyway. I'm not a tall blonde guy doing Prince, you know what I mean?
You got the darker skin.
And they know that I love the guy. So it's such an honor.
Yeah, wow. So did you hear anything back, or had you heard anything back from Prince's people, or from the estate of Prince? Or
there is talk that he may have seen me perform once on the Bert Newton show when his drummer was here in Australia, Mr. John Blackwell, who also passed away
this week. Yeah.
A couple of days ago. So that we lost another great one, man.
Isn't it incredible, like how artists? I found that the other day through my friend Tom Larkin from Shehad that the average life expectancy of an artist today is 57. 57, right. Andy De Silva.
Oh, wow.
I'm 54. I think maybe I'm an artist, but shit,
Oh, it's life. But they're just going back home. It's just life. It's not how long you're here. It's not how long you're here.
No, true.
It's not the length of time.
What you do and the quality of your life, but still, when you think about it, I mean,
it's sad for us. It's hard for us.
It is hard. It is hard for us. But on the flip side of that, it's like, you know what? We still have their body of work to enjoy. Yeah, okay, there'll be nothing new coming out, but there's the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah,
and it's going to go from generation to generation.
And we need to look at the new artists that are out. I know it's so. I do it sometimes. Oh no, there's never going to be another Prince. Never going to. You put it out there. There's never going to be another Prince. I get on YouTube, man, and I got to eat my words because I see some young artists out there, and it's great that I have no idea how they're doing it, because that's how my dad and his mates looked at me when I used to get the bass, and I'll be, what is this kid doing? Like, how does he do that? And then with my, sequencing music and MIDI and all that, and they'll be looking at me like, how the, if my dad will be like, and I'm doing that now with my daughter and her friends, and they're doing stuff with music, and I'm like, how do they do that? What's going on? So you know what? Let them do that.
How supportive was your dad or family with music with you?
Dad, I don't know if you're watching, but yeah, my dad, a big part of it.
Wow.
A big support, because my dad is he's one of us.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's the kind of guy that after the gig will break down the door of the band room and go, gig, man, yeah. He's all about heart as well. Like my dad would always, if someone was on TV like Stevie Wonder or anybody, the whole house would stop. And my dad would never say, what a voice. He'll never say, what a great guitarist, or how much. He'd go, mate, son, that's feeling.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How good's that?
That's feeling, son. That's feeling. I think my dad, I don't know, he just doesn't, he's not into guys or anyone that just kind of sings well.
Yeah, or technique,
well. There's a lot of people sing well, and I'm not one of those, I don't think, but I just try to put my heart in everything I do. And that's what the kind of the X factor, whatever you would call it, but that's the thing that people, we don't know why we like an artist sometimes. They're not the greatest singer, but there's just something about them that, and my dad always encouraged that.
Yeah.
He don't, yeah.
I think it's always about feeling. I mean, for people that understand music, or who are the boffins who listen to it more analytically, can appreciate it on a deeper level. But I think the average punter, and again, as a kid growing up, before I understood anything about the mechanics of music and the technical side of it, there's a certain magic in it, and the magic was really in the feel. And we just intrinsically feel emotion, because that's what it's about. It's emotion and feeling. And if the singer is telling a story, what is it that makes you cry?
Yeah. And you can do it in anything. You can do it in hip hop. You can do it in rock. You can do it. You can do it when you
you can even do it
in a groove. You can do it in a groove.
I think in electronic music, man. I mean, what is it that music that has been programmed? That's programmed. All right, it's humans programming it, but what is it that can make some electronic music club music? Again, just take you on a journey, and other stuff just sounds simply mechanical.
And a lot of singers and musos will know this, and I'm guilty of it as well. I don't always sing and play from the heart at all times. There's sometimes when I'm in my head, I'm singing and I'm thinking about can't hear myself properly. And I'm thinking about the notes, thinking about the pitch, thinking about playing, and then all of a sudden it's not there. Hang on a minute, this gig's not going right, and I got to recenter again. Hang on a minute, you got to get into that zone. So it's easy to talk about, but it's something that my dad encouraged, and sometimes it's great to go back there and talk to him again. Because I talk to so many people about the technique of how to do a great show, and then you get old school with it, and then you go back to the people that my dad would listen to,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny.
Jazz greats, just
it's
different place.
Well, it's funny, I mean, I guess they're still online, but for a while there was all these like these Pro Tools sessions of stems of all these great records, and listen to Marvin Gaye, or Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, and then you line them up in Pro Tools and you play it. And unlike today, where everything is kind of almost quantum locked, there were things that there was bum notes, missed timings, just But when you put it all together, it just created magic. Because again, it's just the emotion, the feeling that came out.
Really good educational thing to have at those files. If anyone's looking for them, search on the net. It'll be everywhere now.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, Stevie Wonder's Superstition. Man, I put that into my system as well. Oh, it's completely different. You can hear the breaths, everything. You're right. Things don't line up. Harmony's a little bit out.
Yeah. Pitching sometimes a little
Some
wayward.
of the doubling is kind of like this. You put it together and it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And just hearing a solo. Just it was one of Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and just listening to the bass. There's a YouTube of just the solo track of the bass, which has this video thing of like the notes, but in a kind of follow the bouncing ball kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that's all it is. And man, you should, not only is it technically like amazing, but just listening to it, it's incredible. Amazing. And that's just the bass on its own, without all the other shit going on. You know,
very cool.
Really quite amazing. So, how'd you put this band together? I mean, because you've had a few different people sort of come in and out, haven't you?
Well, I have to sometimes because everyone's so busy. You know, when you use the best, they're gonna get pulled. You know,
here and there for gigs.
John Stevens uses. You know, there's John Stevens band, Kate Sobrano band, so they're all, really busy.
So basically, you've got a pool. Or you've got a pool of musicians, but all of them irrespective. So on one night, that whatever combination you have, you'll rehearse obviously, but it's not going to take long to lock it together and boom. How good's Johnny Salerno, man?
Johnny is.
Hey?
He's a great guy, great drummer.
I was so honoured to meet him last couple of weeks ago, and I obviously knew Johnny. I've mastered numerous records that he had drummed on, because he's drummed on so many records. And only knew of him by reputation. And you know when there's someone that you really respect and admire, and you meet them, and they just don't meet that expectation, if you will, but they exceed it. It was I was like, wow, what a beautiful, humble soul he is, man.
And that's why people want to work with him. Yes, he's a great drummer, one of the best, but at the end of the day, we're all people, and a lot of people say this, they won't tour with people they don't really like. It's hard. And Johnny's just a real person. Some people make you feel good, and Johnny's one of those guys. Before we go out, we used to go out a lot when we
younger.
A bit younger. Just go out, not do a gig, go out. We haven't done that for a long time. Knock at the door, I'll open, he goes, "Look at you, mate." Yes. Oh yeah, look at you. Look what. He just straight away just makes you, he's just a great guy.
But more importantly, I think it's important to make. I think making people feel significant is very important, but more importantly, it's got to be sincere. And again, that's something you feel, man. You feel it. You feel it. You know when again, a singer, a speaker, whatever, someone could be really slick and well prepared and almost rehearsed flawlessly, but there's something so small there that just makes you go, it looks good, it sounds good, it smells good, man. But I just can't put my finger on it. You know?
No, he's great.
He's a great man,
great musician.
But I think you're right in what you're saying. It's important that I've said it many times. We're in a relationship economy, and by that is you can have amazing chops in your field and whatnot, but when you're on tour and if you're on tour working in the studio, you're in a confined space with a whole bunch of people for long periods of time. you got to click, man. You got to get on, and people have to kind of like each other and feel that they can trust each other and bond.
Yeah, we're people at the end of the day too. It's sometimes it does work, sometimes it just can't. You know what I mean? That's fine.
No, it is. No. It's true, but I think that this is why it's important that we actually are, and not being snobby here, but just being selective about who you work with, taking the time to go, okay, well, I'm going to put a band together. Let's really sort of get to work with people that we really feel we click and there's a chemistry there. And of course, it's going to be tested. I think the great friendships always are the ones who you can't get through arguments, you can't through disagreements. It's how you handle those disagreements and those spats.
And the hardest part of the music is not the music, it's the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, then you got to talk about the money side of it, the touring, the hotels, and the
who gets what
timings, and it's not easy. But that's when you.
Yeah, I've heard arguments with musicians to the point where, I guess all the intentions always look. We're all brothers. We're on this together. We're all going to go. 5 bands, 20% each, irrespective of who writes.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I've heard arguments in this room between musicians saying, "Well, I wrote one line of that chorus, man, so I should be getting." And it's just like, fuck, these guys are already onto that. We haven't even finished the record, and all, and obviously it hasn't been settled or whatever. But it's a hard one, and people find it difficult to talk about money. I mean, even as a professional, I don't think I find it hard to talk about money, but it's always going to be one of those kind of topics with people. People want to work with you, and then it's about the money. But here's something that I've learnt, right? Money's important because everyone's working to a budget, and the market only can withstand so much, and you've got to be realistic. But I've also learned that it's always about value that you give.
Yeah.
And value is a perceived thing with people. Some people would look at someone like Johnny, for example, and hire him on a session and go, why should I pay you that much in the day you're just hitting drums? And there's hitting drums, there's hitting drums. But I think that's what I've learned. When people say to me, it's too much, or can you charge me less? What they're really telling me, as I've learned, is what am I actually getting for the money? Right? Can you? I'm not quite clear. Can you better explain it to me?
Yeah, right.
Then you have to go through that process. Now, if they still feel, well, obviously, there's always the go. It's interesting how this industry is probably. I don't know, man. When was the last time you went to a doctor or an accountant and said, "Hey, mate, I'm an independent. I'm an unsigned artist.
Yeah.
Can you give me a better deal?"
It's the only industry where people tell you what you're going to get, But that's why I've learned as well. Even with this show, we don't cut any corners. We take a sound guy with us, and some bands don't take it. And people are still saying we don't have to take a sound guy, but you heard.
So, this guy's amazing.
Danny Olesh, I mean, he knows the gig, and yeah. So
sound
it's
guys,
an expensive show. It is what it is, but that's why it is what it is too. Don't cut corners.
It's interesting. Live sound guys. One of the things I really admire about them is the fact that, unlike a studio engineer that knows their environment or know different environments that they're pretty regular at, a live sound guy, for the most part, may have a residence. But if you're touring different places and you go to a city or a venue that you don't know, you've only got X amount of time, and you've got to be resourceful to be able to make a room work. And with the constant variables of the sound, how reflective the place is, the amount of people that are coming in and out, and doing fiber, it's and there's no safety net. There's no okay, well, Apple delete, we'll just do another take. We'll edit that.
Very different. No, it's hard.
So your guy was he was sensational. I went up and shook his hand at the end of the show. I thought he did a brilliant, he did an absolutely brilliant job. Yeah. No, so hats off to the live sound guys who grind it. James Oysters Kilpatrick is another guy, and Michael Smash Apollo. I don't know if you know him, but he's another gun. Okay. He teaches down at RMIT. Amazing guy, great engineer, and again just lovely, humble, friendliest guy you want to meet. He's absolutely fabulous. So we're talking a little bit before about Australia's Got Talent, and I was really I've got to be honest, I don't really watch a lot of those shows. I mean, I've dabbled in them, but I don't really watch them week by week. But I found out you won actually after the fact, right? And I'm thinking to myself, fucking hell, this is the same industry, or CBD, signed to Sony, blah blah blah, and he's already an established professional musician. What the fuck? He's on a talent show, so I'm curious to know how did all that come about? What was the journey? What did you get out of it? To me, it almost seems like it was almost a renaissance of sorts for you. Yeah, so tell us about that, because
that show, I'll never forget it. It was definitely a life-changing experience, if I can use those words and really mean it. It was a life-changing experience. I was at a point in my life where I was, kind of lost. I wasn't doing much. Wasn't doing much at all except weekly gigs. I was songwriting and producing, but I wasn't focused on anything. I partied for about 8 years after CDB and then wondered why nothing's happening. But I had no drive, and I was around great musicians playing, great gigs and stuff, but still no drive. All of a sudden, I decided to leave all the bands that I was playing in every Saturday night, and I started doing solo gigs. Very lonely, very lonely. Setting up my own, PA, my loop station, singing in, people watching the footy. How did I get here? No offense to anyone doing that now, but that was my. I just knew I could be doing more. Yeah. Very lost, but very humble. Right?
Yeah.
Because I left the other, vices in my life, which was holding me back. I wasn't an addict by any means, but I was.
You're constant. You had.
If you don't look after yourself, man, you don't look after yourself. And I just said, let's just say I wasn't looking after myself.
Yeah.
And I started hitting the gym. And I just started getting myself together and facing the facts. Yeah, okay, I'm going to start training my voice. I've been singing for so many years, never trained my voice, warming up my voice before a gig. And then I was at a party, and it was just when The Voice had started, and The Voice had been asking all these Melbourne singers, reaching out to great Melbourne singers, hey, do you want to come on the show? And I just asked someone, hey, man, do you reckon someone like me could go on one of those shows? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know the difference between the shows. Mm-hmm. X Factor. I just thought there was no, like you, I didn't really watch them. Mm. I've worked on doing music and stuff for the show, but I never watch it. I just do my thing, send it off. So yeah, man, I was talking to someone involved in the show, and I said, mate, do you reckon? His eyes lit up and go, yeah. The next show coming up is Australia's Got Talent, and bro, you can sing your own songs on that show. And I said, oh, okay. All of a sudden, I got all this, maybe after a few drinks, hey, I can do that. And his wife was there. No, don't go on that show, Andy. You're too good for that. And he goes, hang on a minute. He can sing his own songs. Bro, if you want to sing a song with string section, you've got it. If you want, I was like, okay. And then afterwards, I got home and the fear just started to creep up. I can't do that because of all the talking. Anyone watching this won't probably believe it, but I have a stutter. I've come a long way since then, but I would never go on a show like that because of my fear of public speaking. Yeah. Even in CDB, the boys would do the interviews. I'd never talk, because I just find myself stopping. Yeah. I'm one of those stutterers that won't go. I just stop. Yeah. And the first thing you do on your audition is say your name. They ask your name, and the fear crept in. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it, because the producer of the show actually rang me and reached out to me. I said, yep, I'll do it. And then I reached out to him again. I wrote this long email, and it was serious. Thank you for this opportunity, but no thanks. Yeah. I cannot do this. This is the reason why. Yeah. I've got to start up. If they ask me my name, there's a good chance on public television I won't get anything out. Wow. It'd be like, I don't want to do that. So he reached out to me and he said, mate, everything's going to be fine. You need to do this. People need to, hear your story at least. Yeah. And I go, oh, I can't. So, and that's when, I was at a point in my life where even my kids, I had to face them and say, listen, Dad doesn't want to do this because, and they're like, yeah, I notice sometimes, Dad, when you talk, especially, ordering a pizza or just can't use the phone, or I can't talk properly. And I know I'm doing it now, but, by the grace of God, my life's changed, but that's where I am now. And that's why that show made me face a lot of my demons. Yeah. I owned up about, and I just felt this weight. So yeah, I walked up on that stage for the audition, and I prayed to God, and that's when I found God was someone that loved me, and the seeds were always planted. I was always around people that had God in their lives, but that's one thing. Mm-hmm. God's not someone that wants you to live through someone else. Yeah. He's your God. Yeah. He wants you. Who is he to you? And I said, when God is a God that my mate prays to, and my grandma prays to. Yeah. And I sometimes pray when I'm in trouble, but I don't know about this God that can really hold my hand. Yeah. And I said, well, if this God is real, I'm going to pray to him, and he's going to have to come through, because right now I can't sleep at night. This is months leading up to the audition. I couldn't sleep, and I was like, God, and I felt God just relieving. Yeah. And I said, God's going to walk with me. And people praying, God's going to, and he did, man. I took him with me on that stage, and they asked me my name, and I did. I tapped my knee. That's what sometimes I do. I couldn't get my name out. Yeah. I said, Andrew. And then my next line was, sorry, folks, I've got a stutter. And I've never said that in public. Yeah. I'm the cool guy from CDB. Nothing's wrong with me. Yeah. And I said that, and I don't know, my life just changed in that very instant. I just dug in more to God and what He had for me, and I forgot about the show. Even though I was on this show, I just was having deeper, conversations with Him, and He was revealing to me who I am, and all I wanted to do was to praise and to. Someone said to me a long time ago, "Mate, you've sung every kind of song, but you've never sung for God," and I was like, how can I sing? How can I sing in a church, man? You don't want me in your church. You don't want. I can't sing in church, man. If you know the stuff that I've done in my life, you can't. And he said, "Mate, you've never used your voice for God." And I was like, "No, not for me, mate." And then fast forward, and yeah, I forgot that I was on a show, because for me it was about the interview that they would do afterwards. I was like, "Oh, Lord, help me speak.
Yeah.
Help me speak, Father." And I was like, and little things would come out. Like, yes, I spoke. I didn't care about the show, it was more.
Yeah.
And then people doing interviews, because I was so open.
Yeah.
I spoke about having cancer, and I've never spoken about that before either. So I opened my heart, and I spoke about all my weaknesses, and I'm singing at weddings now, and no offense to anyone singing at weddings, but after CDB, that's where I just became just doing.
It humbles you, I think.
I humbled myself, and I spoke about it, and I had no shame in that, and I just felt that humility that only God. Once you feel God's presence and how great He is, He reminds you that He is for the humble. He lifts up the humble. As soon as, and I'm not perfect by any means. Sometimes my ego still rises to the surface. Today it'll rise, tomorrow it'll rise, and I still go, hang on a minute. Remember where I came from. I was very easily could have gone somewhere else and not taken this road.
Well, I think that's for everyone. I think we all ultimately, I believe that everyone has a choice as you go down your path in life, and life is a very non-linear thing. We've been trained to think that we go from here to here to here, and because we're so left brain logic driven kind of animals, but artists particularly, we're sort of more right handed, and things don't necessarily have to make sense, but I'm at a point now where I really believe that everything comes down to your choice, and if you don't make a choice, that's a choice in itself, and will have its own set of consequences with however it goes from there. But mate, you touch on a really good point, and I can definitely relate to this, and I think a lot of people can. And the more you open your heart, the more vulnerable you can be, the more truthful you can be, because people, while they fear talking about stuff that's really deep or really meaningful, or that really affects them because they worry about, what are people going to think of me? Or and once you can get over that and start giving less fucks in life about that sort of shit, it's true what you're saying. Initially, it's like being at the precipice of something, and it's just like, fuck, you shit yourself. Going for a skydive, for example, and you're shitting yourself. But once you take that jump, your fear is up in the plane or up, and then it's like, woo, you're losing it. And you're experiencing this thrill that nothing could be explained to you how good it would be beforehand. And then you realize, fuck, that wasn't so hard until the next time. So, yeah, man. But to do it the way you did it in a public forum like that, in front of millions of people and whatnot, I mean, man, that took a lot of balls. But shit, look what it's done for you.
Man, and that's, success is only a part of it. I did win the show, and it was such a blessing. Financially, I was in a lot of debt. It was great. Thank you, Jesus. I sang 4 songs and I got 250 grand. That's basically what. But forget all that. Forget that. Money comes, money goes. Success is in its rightful place. Music is in its rightful place. It's just something that. It's this for me. It's what I do. Just like that guy does that. This guy does that. It's just a gift that I have, but it's not who I am. There's more to me than just my music, and it's in its rightful place. And even after the show, things didn't go exactly the way, but I still, if I didn't have purpose and God in my life even last week, if I didn't have God in my life, I still would have got caught up in this whole music thing and gone, oh man, because you know what? For me, I don't know about other people, it's not enough. Music isn't enough for me. It's not enough. There's got to be more. Success is just.
Well, how do you define it? How do you define success?
Well, is just being grateful for what you have, because you can be blind. Having sight is success. If being blind is not knowing. And having, for me, is putting things in its rightful place. Getting caught up. If I get too caught up in work and not balance it, like this morning I sang and I worshipped with my music, something I've only done. People have been worshipping since they were kids. I've never done that. Yeah, I've gone to church. My heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
My whole excuse was, how can I go and worship on a Sunday after Saturday night?
Yeah, right.
I'm too tired, man. I'm too wasted. Yeah. How am I going to do that? But now I can't wait. Mm-hmm. No matter how tired I am after a Saturday night, I will. But that's something that I've found, and that's something that someone said to me, and I never believed it until I always said, if I see people doing it, I see great musicians playing. Some of the greatest musicians are from the church, and I just said, but I hope that one day I can do it as real as them, from the heart. Not just someone making me come and do it in church. I don't want to be that guy that does it because I'm trying to be a good person. I want to do it because.
Do you think that you can still do that without? Because some people might be watching and listening to this and saying, "Well, that all sounds good, man, but this God stuff, So, just as a devil's advocate, do you think that? Don't you think that can be done without?
Well, I still ask that as well. Like I was that person, so I was always like, well, I can see that what they're doing is very real.
Yeah,
they're singing it. My whole thing, the only love song that I could sing was for a woman.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I've.
Yeah.
So and you have to pray for that. I think you have to pray for that, and I prayed for that. I wanted that. I wanted to love. To have that in my heart. Mm-hmm. If you don't want it, you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
You will only get as much as you seek, and as much as you want, you're going to get. Mm-hmm. If you've got a closed door and said, I don't know about that God stuff, you'll always have that. I don't know about that God stuff. My heart was open because I was some people get to a point where they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I had that opportunity. I always say, if you're hanging off a cliff, who are you going to call? Who are you going to cry out to? And some people do find that clarity and that, okay, where are you? And I did ask that question, where are you?
Yeah.
I didn't get it from my religious grandmother, or that were great because they planted seeds, and I did know, it's great to, and some people don't have that upbringing, so they have no idea, and so it's harder for them to get to a point. I went to a Catholic school, and but still, just
going through the motions.
No relationship. So I was very skeptical, and I did ask a lot of questions. I was like, what about this book? And I had all the self-help books in the world.
Yeah.
Power of Now and Believing in Yourself, and great. Absolutely very, very, very wise, but no relationship with anybody.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't find it. So for me, it's ongoing. It's not something that I've got all the answers to.
Yeah. I think the greatest relationship, without sounding corny, is the one you have with yourself first and foremost. I think that the more I go through life, the more I realize it's an internal journey. Everyone, for whatever reason, we're looking so much to the outside world, whether it's to, an external god or deity or symbol, and there's this almost a reliance. And I think that, I believe that the answers are all in us if we're prepared to go in deep, but also if we're prepared to accept that, because for many of us it's like, well, what do you mean? What do I know? I'm a fucking idiot. Like, what are you talking about? He's smarter than me. That's more authoritative than me. They know more than me. This book knows than me. And yet, mate, I've been through, similar to of this personal development journey. It's been really interesting and fascinating for me. The more I go into it, the more, not get out of it, but I've just become so skeptical of a lot of things in there, and because I feel that a lot of people in the industry are very self-serving, and they're not. It's about them primarily. It's about them, and how do I sell more books, and how do I sell more fucking courses, and shit like that. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to tar the industry with one big fucking brush here, but this has just been my experience and what I've seen. But and on this other tip, and that is that a lot of them start out on this, this assumption that you're fucked up. Right. And if you look at a lot of things, media, women, you're fucked up. But if you wear these shoes, you wear this dress, you'll be hot for this guy, you'll be wanted. But until you're ready to receive that,
It's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
but we grew up that way too, man. It's like we were brought up and loved unconditionally as children until such point as we could communicate with our parents or guardian, whatever. And so all of a sudden you get all first 18 months of your life, didn't matter what you did, shut your nappy, you're hungry, you're crying. A bit of a hassle for mum and dad, but it's little Andy. He's a cute little baby. And when it gets to the point where you can start communicating or there's some sense of understanding, then it's just like, you start understanding. Now, shut up, Andy, or you won't get that lollipop. Sit down, or you won't get to watch cartoons.
Okay. Yeah.
So our reference, most people's early reference in life goes back, depending on who you speak to, but 3 to 4 years of age is usually most people's early memory. So you've had first 18 months unconditional love. You forgot about that. And your earliest memory, all you've known is love is conditional.
Right.
Acceptance is conditional. Validation is conditional. You go to school, you go into peer group. So a lot of people, and again, this has been my journey too, man. This lack of self-esteem. And once you realise that you're responsible for your own self-esteem, you don't give permission to other people. But getting back to this whole spiritual thing is that, again, you were saying before, people. Look, in the context of Christianity, right? People say you got to be ready to receive Christ, let's say, But again, even in that context, if you're not prepared to receive love, you can't. You can't. You got to feel lovable before you can be loved. You with me? So
that whole unconditional love is mind blowing for people. That there could be a God that would love them any way they are.
That in itself, yeah.
No matter who they are.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole beauty of the way God. That's the whole love is choice, and that's what God wants us to. He wants us to come to Him, not by force.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to just do it because He's giving you that spirit of choice. That's why He wants you to choose Him, not someone forcing you. And a lot of people probably do it out of a religious thing, where they do feel they're doing the right thing, which is another.
Well, a lot of people
ask you, "Are you religious now, Andrew?" Going, "Nah, religious is I can be religious about the gym," and that's the. But that's my. And listen, I'm not saying I got all the answers. I can't, but this is my life, and this is what I know, and what I am going through,
and what's working for you,
and what doesn't say my life doesn't go through twists and turns, and like I said, just the past 2 weeks has been an interesting thing where I was getting off track again. I was so busy. And that's what the evils of this world will keep reminding me, mate, you're too busy to do. You're too busy to give back. You're too busy, mate. You got this, you got Boom Crash Opera, you got CDB, you got Purple Revolution, you got I've just done 2 albums that I just completed on my own. And then you want to go to do this spiritual, you want to get, you want to worship God. I mean, what's that all about? You're too busy, mate. You're too busy. And that's my internal, and then I put it in, once I put things in its rightful place, man, it's,
yeah.
Everything, I can still do everything, but it's in its rightful place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think it's priority. I mean, I think for myself, unlike you, who has come to a Christian faith, I've done a lot of exploration since about the age of 29, and I've dabbled in lots of different things. But again, this is just me, my life, my experience. I still think that there's got to be a place in your life for some. I don't know what it is, man. I can't prove shit. But if you ask me, if you ask me about God or what is God to you, or whatever, I think God's a very, very broad concept, and it can mean a lot of things for a lot of people, whether it's the old bearded guy in the sky or whatever. I guess the best way I would define it is just nature in itself. Just there's something that's happening outside of ourselves that it's beyond my fucking understanding, because it's people say, oh, is there some divine creator of the world? And for me, I just think about, if I think about things like, for example, why is it that I don't have to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to remind my heart to beat while I'm sleeping? Why is it that there's this incredible thing. You know, if you look at golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, just the way nature works, there's this almost this code, a pattern. I don't understand it. I get it, but there's this interesting shit that goes on that seems coincidental. But is it? I don't know. You know, for some people say that's the evidence. No one's come to me and be able to say, you know, everyone says I know the truth, and everyone's got their version of truth. But truth with a capital T, man.
It's very hard too, because we live in a world full of information too. You know, we think we know it. There's so much. You know, we think we know what's in water, and we've got all the. You know, we work. The more we know, the less we're going to be open to. But that's
to ideas.
But you know, funny thing is, you talk about this God stuff and all that. God stuff. That's what I,
God stuff.
But you know, as a young kid, now I listen to the early Prince and early. Like I've just bought the Purple Rain re-edition with the DVD live in concert 1985, and he's doing this whole conversation with God on stage. God, Jesus, I still believe in you, and you know, he's having that talk with God, saying, you know what, but they love me when I'm bad. He's talking to the audience and talking to God, and you know, back then it would have gone over my head, and I just think about all these artists that I love and how they let God into their music. And I'm so proud to associate myself with people like that aren't afraid. Like even Stevie Wonder as a kid, and I never really understood it when I was younger. But I still remember this interview with Stevie Wonder sitting like this in a studio, and the interviewer is asking all this: how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you write these songs? Yeah, how does he write these songs? Where do these songs come from? He goes, you know what, man? I always leave room for God. In the studio, I always leave room for him. Now, someone would go, what's in his incense, you know?
Yeah.
He's smoking too much.
Yeah.
But I listen to these artists, man, and I think there is something about the unexplainable. That's when you humble yourself to God. Man, I don't know. Like this we're talking about. I don't know how God, but he did. That's up to him. Yeah. And I think we live in a world where we're, you know, it says in the Bible that, you know, I'm sorry people if you think I'm getting too religious, but I'm just, you know, you asking my life, I'm going to tell you, you know. People say, you know, there will become a time when man will be a lover of themselves. We live in a society, in a world that is in love with itself. Like you said, get yours and get.
Yeah.
How dare you let anyone talk? Don't let anybody talk to you like that.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, you know, Jesus said, if someone slaps you across the face, give him the other cheek. I mean, completely different. Yeah. Completely different to the world. The world will say, you know, I know how this works. It's my life. I'm in control. My destiny. I do things my way. This is how it is. So it's a very counter world in that God is. And I think that whole humbleness of these great musicians that were so humble and saying, well, you know, I couldn't do this without God.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think a lot of people do understand that, and some people may just listen to that and go, what's he smoking?
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's fine.
Well, in my study, and I use the word study very fucking loosely here, Andy De Silva, is that this looking into.
We know a lot of stuff. Don't worry.
No, I'm the old plates are big and fucking yellow right here, man. But looking into you know, quantum physics and stuff, and they talk about that. You know, everything's really an illusion. What we're actually seeing with our limited senses is such a small slither of the spectrum, and yet out there in the quantum world, that's the world that's they can measure it. We can't see it, but they can measure it, so we know it actually exists. Okay. That it's according to physicists, I think it's 99.9 to the power of 6% of every single possibility can come in. It's a bit like, okay, you got everything's frequency, right?
Yeah.
A radio station will tune in to a certain station. So, you know, 105.1 for Triple M Melbourne for the rock.
Yeah.
And then if you go out, so I think it's, you know, like you talk about prayer, I think more in terms of an intention.
Okay.
Right. So if I think about something, there's, you know, you think about it. So as soon as you put that thought and you know, and science now is saying that thoughts create great things. Once you've thought of something, it is, in terms of the quantum world, it's happened like that.
Okay.
But in order for things to sort of vibrate down to that lower density where we're in this three-dimensional world, it takes time. And this beautiful analogy that was given to me by a mentor of mine, he talks about if you're on an oil tanker and you turn the wheel to the right, as soon as you turn the wheel, it has nowhere to go but right if you leave it there. But it's going to take some time.
Right.
It has to slow down. It has to go through a process. Inevitably, it's going to get there because you've turned the wheel. It's impossible for it not to.
Right.
Impossible. But it's going to take quite a bit of time. So people think, okay, if I have an intention on something, something's going to take longer than other things. For example, I want to be a rock and roll star. You're a kid, you want to be a rock and roll star. It might take 20 years before you become a rock and roll star.
Right.
But just because it hasn't happened the same way that an oil tanker can't turn on a 20-cent piece.
I get you. Right. It's going to,
So it's as good as done. It's as good as done. But you've got to go through this process. And so I see prayer in that way.
Sure.
So, and I don't know about you, but when you have prayed for something in that respect, I'm sure it doesn't always happen. Some people say, well, I prayed to God and I got a sign or the sun shone or a dove flew, whatever. But I don't know, haven't you found that sometimes these things have taken some time? I mean,
well, it's like a dad, yeah? Just because you want it, if your son is asking you for something, not now.
Not ready.
Not now. You're not ready to get that. I'm going to put you need to go through this. You need to go through that first. I've got some questions, I think.
Oh, here we go.
Who'd have thought it would get so deep in a...
Oh.
Two musicians getting deep.
Whether it's a God or something bigger than us, this is from Bex. Whether it's a God or something bigger than ourselves, everyone needs the guidance. What advice would you give to those who don't have or who have lost that guidance?
Great question.
All yours, mate.
Mate, thank you once again for asking me these things. You know what I mean? It's just no one has really asked me about my life in this way, but this is the truth from me. So I can only speak from
your perspective.
From my life, and I know that there'll be many people that will get it. So, and some that will just be interested. Oh yeah, interesting concept. But I'm still finding my way. I'm still finding, but I just got back to basics of who I was, and I realized nothing is owed to me. I came to a point where I was signed to Sony, CDB all was great. I left that group, I got sick, and then I kind of, it'll happen again. I got signed to Sony again, it didn't work out again. I started slacking off. I started partying and still doing gigs, but not realizing that I need to still work for this. I need to do it for the right reasons as well. Yeah. My dad is a great example. His father as well. We are musicians from the core. We just love music, and you got to love what you do. You've really got to be passionate. I say to my kids, do something that you would do for no money.
Absolutely.
Do it. I would still write these songs and still put a band together and still work on an album. That's what I did before I had any work, and that's what so to find that in your life, it's never going to be easy, but just remember just to find that thing that you're passionate about.
Totally.
And just, I think trying to be successful, this is just me, I don't know, just trying to be successful is not what it's about. You just got to try and be great at what you do, and the success will come.
Yeah.
It'll find its own path, but if you really love what you do,
I think it's everything.
If you lost your way,
And success to me is more than ever. I just tell kids, you know what, making it. There's no making it. There's no end point. I think anyone that at least is up and trying. You could be you're doing your 9 to 5, and you want to be an artist, you want to be a singer, or whatever. But even if you do something in the evenings, on the weekends, to me, I find that more successful than someone that's going to sit there wondering, oh, why was me? Oh, I'll never be able to do this, and not get off their ass and try. And I think that they say that the two hardest things in life are getting started and not quitting. I think maybe smoking is the only exception to that.
It's hard these days too, and I realise it's a different world now. Back in my day, but I can say that it's a different world these days. To have a recording deal back in the early 90s or late 80s, you were on your way at least somewhere.
Yeah.
Now it's like, is that a recording deal? If you want one, get a recording deal. Otherwise, you do it yourself as well. You can. There's so many. So it's a really Instagram followers and how many. It's like social networking, and it's amazing. Like a new artist today, what he knows and what I know is completely different. You know.
No, it is.
Here we go.
Yeah. From AJ, and if you had to rebuild your career from scratch again, forgetting all the success and experiences you've had, heaven forbid, what would your first steps be to build your career as a musician? I think it's a great question.
In this day and age, wow.
Well, let's just assume that.
Yeah.
Well, you're restarting, so I guess I'm assuming that.
To rebuild, I could only do the way I did it in the past, and all I know is to be great at what I do and to really love it. You know what I mean? I just, you know, we just went out there and did so many gigs, and you know, a lot of it, call it fate, call it what you will, but a lot of it is fate as well. But I just know my heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
I knew from a very young age that I'm going to do this. And it wasn't about I'm going to be a star. The teacher actually stood me up in year 10. Andrew, because I was leaning back on my chair, I wasn't doing my work. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to play in a band, miss. Everyone laughing. Like James Rain, and I was doing some gigs with James Rain, but Boom Crush Opera actually.
Yeah.
You want to be like James Rain, do you? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But and I still break it down. I still to this day I come home after a gig and I sit in the chair, have a warm hot cup of water, yeah. And I think about the faces in the crowd, and I just think, yep, happy customers, happy people. They dug the show. What more could there be? Oh yeah, the next show. That's it. I'm happy. And I used to say to management, people, Andrew, what do you want? I go, mate, I just want to continue doing this. I just want to continue making music. I want there to be a stage ready for me to get on to. I want to say something to people. I want to communicate. And it is that simple for me. I know there is a great world out there of publishing, and you can own your own record company, your own label, you can do all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. For me, I'm pretty simple. I just want to do a great gig, singing a great song, and singing it from the heart. My mum from Germany. She doesn't live in Germany. They're on holiday. Oh, watching from Germany.
How good's that?
Son. Love you, Mum.
International viewers. Love it. Absolutely love
it. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, man, I think, again, coming back to the same point, man, heart, man. Intention, heart, coming from that place of, because it's identity. This is a big thing for me. When you have this strong sense of identity in what you do, and we're all kinds of people, and we have all facets about us.
Man. We're all different.
But we have this kind of primary identity in the world with people. Oh, who is this guy? Oh, this guy is this, and this, because you're living that. And I think all the artists I know, they're not just, even if they are part-time musicians in terms of part-time creating or part-time gigging, they're still artists. They're still identified that way.
And that's the role an artist has to play in society. We just get caught up with the success and what are the tools to being successful. If you want to be an artist, you've got to be ready to express life. Like even pop artists, they do it really well. I see it all the time, like Lord, or even some real pop artists just expressing, and they do it. They're expressing a human emotion and condition, or the way the world is at the moment, and you got to be ready to do that as an artist. Just like I'm doing now, I feel kind of vulnerable talking about this stuff, and I'm wondering, deep down, I'm wondering if people thinking, oh man, I don't want to hear this guy talking. But then, as an artist in this world too, I write songs about this stuff, but to express.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to express that, and there's people that need to hear. That's the role we play in society.
I've always been fascinated with, again, the artistic creative mind is such a fascinating subject, and what is it about musicians, particularly, creatives, who they live in extremes, and so you'll have an artist that'll go on stage who will play to 100,000 people, absolutely nail it. They're just in flow. And then they get off stage, and then they'll be curled up in the fetal position for 3 days or something, or before they go on stage, they could be that, and then
it's very lonely. It's very lonely sometimes, and that's what, don't get caught up by the lights and that love. That's for me put in its rightful place is important as well, because after the lights go down and all that I love you, you're amazing, it doesn't really touch the heart. It's got to be put in its place, in that, you can't get wrapped up, too caught up.
Yeah.
That's me. That's where I've come,
I think you're right.
Put in its rightful place.
And again, it's that whole thing of, I think when artists who miss the limelight and adulation, I think it's more to do with when you're doing things from that, and personal development people too, they do it from the place of seeking, and I did this for a lot of my life too, Andy, seeking validation externally through what you did or what you said or what have you, and then realizing, you know what, if I'm going to keep depending on that, and I'll become needy, and no one likes a needy person, and when you start being able to fulfill your own cup with your own validation, knowing that you're just, again, not being arrogant, not being full of yourself, but just kind of knowing, I'm okay. Yeah. I'm fine as I am. Not perfect, but within myself, I'm fine.
And the failures embraced, though. I know it's easy to say, and some people going, "Yeah, mate, we've experienced failure. Just things don't work, and it don't work out for years. They don't work out, and you kick yourself, and your ego gets in the way. Oh, I'm so much better than this. Or, even those reality shows. A lot of great singers watch those things. Those reality shows. It's hard for those kids to go up there and sing on those reality shows and get up there. Like I did it when I was 37. These kids are getting up when they're
16, 17.
So, you got to, and they're so beautiful in the way they take that criticism. It's hard for a singer after you've just sung to go, yeah, sorry, mate, you're not that good. It's not easy not that I went through that experience, but I have gone through. Like I've handed in a song to Sony Music that I thought was a gem, and someone said, "You can't polish a turd."
Yeah.
And the whole band loved this song, and I produced it. And I wrote, "You can't polish a turd." Yet I played it to my mates, and they were like, "This is awesome!" Like, so that. But you got to embrace. And part of this whole life thing and music thing is you just got to be ready for the knockbacks as well, and just go, you know what, I love what I do, so no one's going to stop me.
No, that's it. I think, again, failure, so much is about, but whether you look at failure, a lot of it is about how do you see things, because everyone's view of reality is completely different. We're all looking at the same thing. We could look at exactly the same event, but we have two completely different stories and a narrative around it, depending on your, how close you are to it and your connection to it. And so I think also with failure, and I'm not saying, grow a pair and just accept it. It's okay to sort of feel disappointment and upset and rejection, all that. But again, if you, again, take away the emotional aspect of it, don't make it about yourself. And then think of it as like, well, that was just an experiment. And think, all right, I now have found another way how not to do it, and go on and keep going. Because you're right, man. Failure's a big part of it. It is a non-negotiable part of this fucking deal, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to fuck up all the time. But most people who are honest about their lives or careers, if they're honest, they will tell you that things don't always go to plan. And you hear a lot of people talk about their successes, and again, the perception of people is they see that 10 or 15% of the iceberg, and all the shit underneath the waterline that we don't see is really the bulk of it. But you need that, and more importantly, I'm not saying you have to seek it and go for failure, but it's just inevitable. It's just going to happen. So,
but I reckon the younger generation, I'm talking the younger, like my daughter, like, my youngest is 9. She started she kept asking for her own YouTube channel. She's just got the gift of, and I'm so afraid that someone's going to write something nasty and but I think they're so strong in that, stronger than what we were, because we were in the 90s in CDB. We only someone had to write it in a review in some paper or something, and that would get us all upset. Now it's like you can do a gig and someone can upload, this guy sucks, I hate this guy, go die, like it's just crazy. But there's so much, so hats off to this new generation that has so much thicker skin. Most of them can just, like, my daughter, I don't know, you know, I just know that she's got that. Even as a kid, she'd be singing. She'd be like 4, and she'd be, you know, on World singing, and you know, her older sister would kind
Do you
of
think
laughing, and you know, but she'd be just, and I said to my wife, let her have this YouTube channel because she's tough. She loves what she does. She's gonna accept that people are gonna go, you suck, and she's still gonna do it. And I go, that's the way you should be.
Yeah. But do you think? But do you think that's a product of her generation, or do you think that's, or do you think that's a product of the way she was raised?
I don't know. Or maybe I hope it's the way she was raised, but I just think we live in a world full of opinions.
Yeah.
Opinions, like it's, you know, I unfortunately now I can hear the minds of everybody, like the deepest corner, you know, like everyone's thoughts on this topic and that topic, and it's like, oh, do you really think that way about this or this? I hate this kind of music, and you know, okay, good.
Well,
but we hear it all now, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we
Well,
live in that world where you just, it's tougher. You know,
it is a
you
lot
gotta-
tougher
you gotta
growing up
be-
with especially now with the internet and you know, technology and everything that the way it is. It's a lot tougher. There's a lot more choice. There's a lot more information, but there's also a lot more exposure to shit as well. And that's interesting, you know, like you're saying before about this generation. I got a lot of hope with this generation because I deal with a lot of kids and I see a lot of awesome kids are trying hard. But I also see, again, just the kids I've seen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I've got a million kids. I've got some incredible sample that I can study and white papers and shit like that. But I still see a lot of these kids who they're hopeful, but they still have this fear and worry, and they their lack of self-esteem and lack of worthiness and stuff like that. I I really hope what you're saying is true. Okay, I really do, because I'm not trying to rebut your what you're saying, but I still think that there's a long way to go for kids, and kids aren't given enough education to help them understand why it is the way they are, and how it is that they can build themselves up, because ultimately they've got to do it for themselves. We need other people around us to help us and support us, and again, the greatest athletes in the world have coaches, right?
Yep.
Doesn't mean they can't, doesn't mean that someone like Serena or Venus Williams can't hit a tennis ball or hit a great back, but they're going to have a coach for their serving. They're going to have a sports psychologist. There's going to be a nutritionist. There's all this sort of stuff. But ultimately, when they're on the court, it's up to them. Regardless of what they're getting, they got to dig deep. They got to be able to come back if the ships are down, etc., etc. And I think that's true for all of us. And so the more we can understand how we work, how our mind works, how we control our emotions, then the better choices we're going to make, because we are unconscious for 95% of the time. We're just zombies. We're just going around doing shit, muscle memory. And I guess we have to, because you can't wake up every day having to relearn how to walk, how to talk, how to drive a car, how to play, all that sort of shit. But ultimately, the more we can understand how we operate and how we can get into ourselves and, again, go inside, get your inner strength going on, get all your energy going on in there with the assistance of the outside world. And I think the more you can get to that place, the more you're going to attract those kind of people. It's like, the best people I've been able to mentor are the ones that've been able to help themselves. Anyone that's working out of this place wasn't me looking for someone. These people came into my world, and I said, "Fuck, dude, you're incredible. I got to get you here. You're just too fucking good to let go." And it was because of that. So,
and there is something about being ready to receive that, because
totally,
you got to remember, like, after CDB, there was a good decade of just me being closed like this, like, not ready to receive anything new. Just like, I know it all. I'm gonna do my, and I deserve this. It's gonna come, and everyone was like waiting for it to come, and I was just not working hard enough, not ready to receive anything new. Just, there's a scary thing when you think you know it all. Very scary thing. You're never gonna. Some of the great musicians are the most humble. I'm telling you, man, some of the most mind-blowing musicians I've met, like the best, that they are interested in the new up and coming talent.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing there, mate? And they listen to they're like little kids. They love music.
Yep.
They're like, they got this spirit of like, and what's next? Where do we go from here? Really? Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to.
Tommy Emmanuel was the first one that I met like that. I remember he was jamming, with us. We were doing Hey Hey It's Saturday back in the day, and he came bursting into the room. We were doing harmonies, and he got his guitar. Hey, let's do that again. Do that again. He was just like the first time he'd ever played with anyone, and we're like, this is Tommy Emmanuel. And I've met other great musicians like that, and I'm like, okay, there it is right there. They're just, ready to receive something new, ready to receive. And you've got to be ready to receive. I'm still ready. I don't know it all. It may sound like I've spoken some wise words, but once again, I'm speaking from what I've been through.
Yeah.
And you can say it's working for you, mate, whatever you want to say, but, this is something very real for me.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It just so happens that I'm a musician, but it's life, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think you're right, man, too. And again, one of the greatest lessons I learned as a kid is to have met all these great engineers who didn't know me from a bar of shit, but I think they were impressed by the fact that I was prepared to go overseas. There's no money in my pocket and knock on doors and shit like that. But again, that's a great lesson as a kid, to meet someone that you put up on this pedestal, and then you realize just how grounded they are. Yeah, and just because they did the Master of the Rolling Stones that week, and Madonna and Bon Jovi in that week, they didn't, even though that was part of their identity, they didn't say that I'm the guy that did that. Yeah. And they were always looking for a new thing, and they taught great lessons. And I think particularly in America, Americans really embrace helping people go up and not chopping down, and also remember Rick Essig, a guy who taught me how to cut vinyl. He said to me, 80% of this job is bullshit. And I looked at him and he said, "Oh, it's bullshit, man." It said, basically, you got to get along with people. People have to like you. You got to be involved. You got to be invested. Sure. He's the guy that taught me about everything's about service and investing in the artist. Like, that's your record just as much as theirs. You don't take it on as your record and overtake things, but you need to be, like I talk about, I'm a surrogate member of your fucking band, whether you like it or not. And that was drilled into me very, very early. Yeah, right. And so, you can get away with being 90% if you can measure skill, but let's just say you're an A- for argument's sake. But if people really like you, they want to be with you, they feel like, you're there because that gig is not there to help cover the shortfall of the mortgage that you didn't come up with last month. Yeah. You're there because your life's on the fucking line. Maybe not that dramatic and extreme, but you're invested. They again, definitely, you put yourself in their shoes. What would you expect?
You gotta love what you're doing. You gotta do it with heart.
Absolutely.
I'm ashamed to say there was a long time in there, and I was just kind of turning up to my work, doing my gig.
Yep.
How much are we getting for this one? Invoice, get out of there.
Yeah.
Next. Hated what I was, and I've found that joy again and that love for music. I'm like a kid again. I'm back to staying in the studio and going out to do a gig, coming back and finishing, and like I'm saying to my wife, this is what I used to be like.
Yeah.
This is what I used to be like. My distraction as a kid was, son, your food's getting cold. I'd be like, what? no, I finished this song. And I didn't have that for years. I lost that. I lost that love.
Yeah.
And then it was all about, just, I really feel
going through the motions.
I know sometimes we have to do that in life.
Yeah.
We have to, and it's a good discipline thing to as well. Sometimes, suck it up, and there's nothing wrong in that. But when you put your heart in it, man, you'll do this and you'll go out and do it again because your heart's in it. You're doing it from.
Yeah. Here we go. Benjamin Hollard. Andy speaks about how being good at something will lead to success. Can you speak on how being highly skilled without financial or social capital can possibly lead to success? You got something? I got something on that.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
No, go for it. Yeah. How to be successful without financial or social capital. Okay.
I'm a great believer that people use the excuse, I can't do it because I've got no money. I can't afford to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I was in the same boat too. I came back here in 1991 with my ass out of my pants. I had $8,000 of debt. I was living during the recession we had. I was homeless, Didn't have a pot to piss in. I think my only possessions in life was a bong, a mixing bowl, a stoker. It was stainless steel, mind you. It wasn't one of those bamboo cheap shit ones. And really, I had nothing. And I think it's more about, rather than if you focus on scarcity, and if you focus on the things that are not going to work for you, you're going to get more of it. And I'm not saying you've got to be delusional and say, well, the money's going to fall out of the sky. I think it comes down to how resourceful are you? Okay. You know, I got my first Pro Tools rig with no fucking money, but I met a guy called Rob Stiles. If I see Rob, I'm just going to hug and kiss him. With no money, but I went to him and I was really honest. I said, dude, I've just come back in the States. I'm going to do this mastering thing. I got no money, but I'm really, really keen. Now, this is before Pro Tools. You know, this is sound.
Was really expensive.
Yeah. You know, this is 1989. This is Pro Tools I first touched in 1989, but this is 1991, 92. And I went to him. I said, mate, I haven't got the pot to piss in, but how about this? How about I got an idea for you? I got a bit of a clue on this shit. How about you know, you're trying to sell these rigs. There was only one other guy in Melbourne that had one, a guy called Cameron. I think it was Cameron Craig or Cameron Adams, and he was working out of the old Metropolis, right, in South Melbourne. And I thought, well, mate, how about this? How about you let me have a rig, and you can use that as a place where people can come see a machine actually working, and hopefully that'll help you sell some machines. And we came up with a payment plan. Same thing happened with Manny at the old Manny's, because when I started up, that was when I was working, and I was working on a fucking coffee table in a flat in North Essendon, dude, on a coffee table, right, in a lounge room. And then eventually we moved on. And when I started Sing Sing in late 99, early 2000. Same thing. Went to Manny's. Said, Manny, this is what I do. I want a new rig. This thing's really old. Can we come up with an arrangement? So I think it's about resourcefulness. I think if you can go to someone and you can offer something to them that is of value to them, you know, sure. You haven't got the money right now, but you know what? Maybe I can do something for you while I use this in order to help you, give you something back. And if you got something, again, value is a perceived thing, man. Everyone's got a different idea of what's valuable to them. So if you can find that thing, I think that's the way I did it.
Yeah.
And I built the studio, you know, and this was 21 years in the making to get to the point where I opened the doors. And I had to work jobs on the side. And wow, this is not, look, this is not an exclusive kind of story.
Yeah,
it's a story of many, many people. But if you stop there straight away and think about, well, fuck, I've got no money, I've got no contacts. Mate, you know, unless you're Quincy Jones' son or something like that. I mean, most people started with fuck all.
Yeah.
You know? And I think the people that really got the leg up really quick, for the most part, either didn't appreciate what they got, if it was handed on a silver platter, or maybe they weren't respected as much by others.
You can have all the contacts in the world, and you know it's not going to do anything really as well. So
social capital, financial capital is something that you create. I believe if you got to go out and you got to hustle, man. You got to bang on doors. You got to go through the setbacks, because it's all the fucking numbers game, man.
Yeah.
You know, mathematically, you cannot not fucking get there if you're prepared to persevere, because every fucking no is one step closer to the yes. That's been my experience. And so long as you've got that perseverance, and again, heart, intention, passion, love for what you want to do, and people feel that from you, more doors will open, man. But again, this is what I'm saying. It's all internal. It's all going to come from inside you. That's where the drive is, man. That's the pebble that hits the lake of life and sets off the fucking waves that then hit other people.
And people see that.
Absolutely.
People see when you're, you know.
Absolutely. No doubt. So,
passionate.
You know, I don't know whether that helps but.
Yeah, I can't really touch on that, because my life as a kid, you know, middle class family. I mean, my dad would save up the whole year to buy me a guitar, you know, but I was blessed to have a father that's a musician as well. And I'd speak to friends who are great musicians, and they're like, mate, in my household, music was like a hobby, but no, I was blessed. My dad would introduce musicians to me like they were kings.
Right.
Son, you're going to meet this guitarist, you know, so, I mean, I still speak to other parents and stuff at school, and they'll ask, so how do you make money doing music? And I'm like, they're like, they look at music as a, so I was blessed. I did come from a musician from a music family. Well, not a music family. It's not so
Support
much.
an environment supportive
They
of it.
respect music.
Yeah.
We don't look at music like, although So I can't. But you answered that question amazingly.
Well, hopefully. Unlike you, my dad was very non-supportive because my dad was a failed academic, and so he wanted to live vicariously through me, which a lot of the old schoolers were like. So
some people had a hard time with that.
Yeah, but sometimes I wonder, and I think, okay, fuck, if let's say I've just wondered, I'll never know the answer, but what if my dad was like yours? Would it have been different? I'll never know the answer. But I've got to a point now where I'm grateful. I go, you know what? It was because of my dad saying no that gave me the drive. And when you're young and angry and full of testosterone, you fucking do it.
Yeah, that was your drive. Yeah, cool.
That's what got me going.
Amazing.
And got me started. And so and that's how it went down. So all I can do is be grateful for that was my journey, and that's how it had to be for me.
Cool.
And everyone's got a different path and different way of getting there. As long as we get there as long as we get on the path to where we want to go, we're all good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Andy De Silva, it's been such a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to cut it short. Not cut it short, but we're at the time we have to wind it up. But mate, this is exactly. I mean, every podcast I've done has been great, but again, this has kind of been like exactly the stuff that I am into and I'm interested in. Because for me, it's about there's lots of great podcasts that talk about how to mic up a drum kit, how to master a track, how to set up a compressor, and that's all good. My fascination has always been about what is it that makes people tick. I want to understand what are the common denominators of people that are successful, especially in our industry, and when people can come on and be, again, I'm so appreciative that you were open and vulnerable and honest about all these things. And hopefully, tonight people got other insight into you, as I did too, because there were things that I kind of knew about you, but obviously now I'm hearing it straight from you. And now
For me, it's just about sharing. I never really share that much. And I think it's just it's not about making someone live their life like I live, but it's important for me to share because we're all here to share.
Yeah, and we all learn from each other, as you said, irrespective of age or what have you. But again, if you're open enough to it, and it's great to kind of know what you know and be set in your ways because it works for you. But again, I've got all these kids that work out of here, and all the time, not all the time, but often they're coming with things that now I use in my workflow. The way I approach social media, the way I introducing myself to new music and stuff like that. But again, it's easy to sort of say, well, back in my day, that was music, and and that was it. That's great, but we've got to keep growing. We've got to be open and willing to at least look at things objectively. Then we can use our own filter and decide whether we like it or not. That's fine, but not to shut shit off straight away because it doesn't resonate immediately with whatever you're feeling. So, but you're right. And again, I'm really grateful you came on the show, man.
That was fun.
Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything.
You too, brother.
Buddy, when is the next?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We'll catch up with you real soon.
Yeah.
Tell us any future gigs coming up.
Yes, the Purple Revolution is booked till the end of the year. The next great couple ones is at Brunswick. Spotted
Mallard, down the road.
of July, Saturday, 15th of July, and then in St Kilda at Mimo Music Hall. It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, that's a great place.
29th of July,
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be down there, and then we're supporting Keith Sweat for all your R&B heads with CDB as well. That's coming up. That's at the Palais.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Palais.
You got a date?
On the 29th of July as well, so I'll be going to
2 gigs.
2 gigs across the road.
Sweet. That'd be great, man. Well, again.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on again, Andy. It's been a pleasure, man.
Oh, it's been absolutely.
It really is. It's just been like
fun.
I didn't kind of know what to expect.
It's
but
been real, man.
It's been
real.
It's been real. It's absolutely real. All right, then. So, thanks very much. Now, just a quick reminder of for those of you in Melbourne, we've got Mastering Music, Mastering Life 2.0 industry panel and Q&A event at the Croxton Park front bar. Tickets are available at OzTix. And we're going to have a great panel of people, including Dallas Frasca, Tom Larkin, Lorenzo Soletto, who was in the Tender Trap. Now he's running his own agency. Mike Elwington, fantastic blues guitarist and songwriter. And, well, some other person on as well, which I keep fucking up on this thing, don't I? but
I'll put the animation up.
put the animation up. We've got an animation coming up, thanks to technology. But we got an amazing lineup of people coming up. You know, I always get this wrong. Maybe it's the nerves. But anyhow, look, it's going to be a fantastic panel. Tickets at Oztix, and it's especially designed for those of you, particularly who are musicians, whether you're new or a novice trying to step up. Again, to interact with these people that have been doing it, they're the real deal. They've been doing it for years. They're successful in their own right, and get to ask questions from them directly about what you want. You know, we live in social media land now where we have so much accessibility to people. Back in my day, it was about writing a letter, not knowing if it would get there. And if
back in my day, there's
that's true, man. That's what it was. I mean, all this shit didn't exist. You know, I was living in bloody bedrock. But nowadays, even though some kid who really wants to get in touch with you, and there's Twitter and this and that, there's still kids though who will go, well, what am I going to say? Will he get back to me? Well, I'll look like an idiot. Whereas knowing that you're coming to a place where these guys and girls are there specifically for you, so that you could approach them and talk to them, and also gives a chance for people to get together in a room and network in a really friendly environment that's supportive. I mean, last time we did our event in March, our first one, which was an engineers and producers one, we had 2 people come out of it, and now they're starting to make records and they're looking at a label signing. And,
oh wow!
Yeah, it's amazing. So anyway, again, it's just a small way of trying to bring community together and get people in touch with real deal artists, engineers, producers, so that they can be inspired. But anyhow, hopefully you guys will be able to make it down 6th of August, that's Sunday, from 3 till 6. Anyway, love you fuckers. Thank you so much. And as I always say, we leave, be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourselves. Okay, see you later, guys. Have a good one.
Nice one, brother. Thank you.
How good was it?
Oh, it's great. I love,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to get
well, it was
real.
well, that's what I was hoping for.
Nice.
But like I said, just it's still